Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how, when you're using RetroPie, to change the video output to give it more of a retro feel, so it's a bit more like using an old school CRT TV rather than a modern flat screen, because as you might have noticed, by default it's quite a harsh image that comes out, especially when you've got a very large screen and it's on a modern sort of flat screen TV. So for example, on the screen now we've got Emulation Station and I've got Mega Drive selected. If we go in there and run Sonic the Hedgehog as an example, when it fires up you'll see it's quite already jagged on the edges and very sharp on the screen, and you quite often want to soften this a little bit for that CRT style look. Now this is without the smooth option on, which is a new setting in RetroPie 3 which does take the edge off slightly, and I'll show you that as in comparison. But you can see here already it doesn't quite look quite as I don't know the best way to describe that sort of retro look is, but it's quite harsh, it's quite pixelated, it's very sharp edges, very blocky. You can see that particularly on the Sonic character. It's not as you'd expect it. So there are various ways to change this. First one being in default options now in RetroPie 3 there's a smooth option. Now I'm just going to change that in the back end and we'll see how that makes a change on the screen. So bear with me a second whilst I find the option. Okay, now this if I restart this, we'll quit that, and this is how it is by default now. So you should see a slight difference when we go back in there. It should have smoothed off the edges, have a sort of slightly blurred effect. There you can already see on the logo it's not quite as harsh as it was. And again there it's a lot smoother. So for a lot of people the default, without changing anything at all, that might be sufficient and you don't want to change anything else. There we go. See already there's less sharp edges around the characters, and it's a bit nicer to play, certainly on a large screen. But you may have seen in some of the previous videos there's a lot further you can go with this by using shaders or overlays, and what I'm going to do is show you, without having to edit loads of manual files, without having to get sort of tweaking several different areas of RetroPie, just to make this quick and easy. I've written a basic that copies different configuration files to the right place, so it won't break the way RetroPie works, and it makes just a small change to get this working differently. So if I just quickly in the back end here, I'm going to go and make a setting change. Just bear with me. Okay, so I'm just in the menu section in the back end that I'll show you in a moment, and I'm going to go to change an option, and I'll have option 1. Now I'm going to restart this, and you've probably heard on the keyboard there aren't a lot of buttons to press to make this change. I'll go back in and we should see that kick in. So there you've already got a TV border, and you can also see scan lines going across a little bit there, or the scanline effect, and the ratio has been resized slightly. And again, comparing this to how it looks on YouTube to your own TV is going to be slightly different, plus my TV isn't necessarily standard, it sort of emulates a 1080p look, so again it's not 100% what you see on the screen is what you get, so it's worth trying out different settings for yourself. But certainly on my setup this view looks a lot better to me. It's got a scanline effect, it's got the ratio change slightly, so it's not quite as stretched in certain areas, and generally it makes it a lot nicer to play. So that was very quick and easy to change, and I'm going to do another one now. Just press this and that's done. Now I'm going to restart this and you'll see again a slight change. Okay, fire it back up. There, so there's a different overlay around the edges. It's still got scan lines running across it. I mean obviously it's all just one image, but the TV element there. by and large that's pretty similar. I do like this one as well. This is from a user submitted some settings to me called Thorig on the Pet Rock Block forums, and I've incorporated that in the tool, and as you can see, it looks pretty good there. It runs well. With overlays there's next to no slowdown compared to say some shaders where you do notice a difference, but it's quite often a much nicer way of playing it when it makes this change to the screen, not just to make sure the ratio is sort of as close as is realistic you're going to get on a modern TV, but also that scanline effect to soften out the graphics. I think it works quite well. And I'll just make another change. I've got quite a few options from a user called Patrick M, who's put a lot of effort into tweaking the settings to make them customizable. I'll put one of those in now, so I'll make that change and restart the game. Now again, this isn't about choosing the right setting to get the graphics looking correct, because quite often there's never a correct. Even back when you were using original hardware and TVs, there are all slight differences, and there's no necessarily a correct way of doing it, but it's more about what you like. I mean, some users, for whatever reason, like playing this in a 16:9 ratio where everything is literally stretched, but that's just because they prefer it. So there's something for everyone. Again, this on my TV quite often, I don't know how it's coming out on YouTube, but it doesn't necessarily look quite the same as the other ones. It's opted not to put a graphic on the side, but that's fine. A lot of people don't want the graphic at the side. But the way my TV emulates 1080p, I'm not sure this one's the best option for me, but it is popular with a lot of users, so try this one out, definitely. You can see it's just another way of going about it, and I think some of the RetroArch graphical settings are different in this one, so this one's got a lot of emphasis on trying to get it as true to the original as possible. But, again, there's everyone's got different tastes on this, and it's worth trying out the different options. I'll just try another one now. Again, this is one without the border around the side, but it's very similar to the early one. So basically it's just no TV border around the side, but it's still got the scanline effect, the ratio change to make sure it looks right. Okay, that's quite boxed on mine. I'm not too sure about this one. But, like I say, they're all tweakable as well, so you can install these and make slight amendments yourself to get exactly what you're after. But yeah, like I say, there's lots of different options. Just have a look through here. Another option I've got, if I change that, we can just apply shaders. So what you've seen so far is overlays, where an image is just put over the emulated game. But instead of using overlays, you could use shaders, where it sort of changes the graphics more fundamentally, I guess. But some shaders do require quite a lot of CPU, and you can see some slowdown. But I'll just press the shader option there, and we'll give that a go and just see how that comes out. Again, there is a lot of different shaders. I've just chosen a particular one that sort of does its best to try and emulate a bit of a scanline effect. It all looks pretty usable there. Pretty similar to the overlays, but just a different way of going about it. So it's whatever suits you best, really. I've also got some settings built in here to suit 720p TVs as well as the 1080s. Obviously, when I try this on the TV that I've got that tries to do 1080p, I might get a bit of a boxed effect on 720, but I'll give it a go. Okay, I've made that change, quit out of there. And we'll go back and just see how that looks. Yeah, I've got a much smaller box in the screen there because it's anticipating 720p output. But works perfectly well and gives you that scanline effect. So what I'll do now is drop back into the command line interface and show you how to install this tool, and you can see how easy and quick it is just to change between different options and flip between different settings to see what suits you the best. Okay, here we are in the command line interface, and what we're going to do is just download the tool to start with so we can install and use it. So that can be done by, I'll set some details in the comments section in the video, the description, to show you the link to the page. But the first thing we do is type this line, which downloads the file. So wget, and then it's just got a web address, and this bit here, obviously you need to change. The release number is going to vary. Currently, the latest release, and it is very much in beta, is the 0.9. So put that there, and that'll download that version. Now I must stress that if you've spent hours and days configuring RetroPie to be exactly as you want, and you've customized lots of files, particularly the system-based retroarch.cfg files, then this tool may well not be for you, or you need to understand what it does before you use it. Don't use this on a system that you've tweaked to the nth degree and you've got loads of customizations, because it will overwrite those changes. So please don't run this on something that you've only got one copy of and you really don't want to change it, because this will overwrite some files. And I'll do a separate video that shows exactly how it works, what it does, what it changes, but this video is just about getting it up and running. But if you've made, like I say, lots of changes, don't run with this as it stands until you understand what it changes. The best time to run this is maybe when you've just installed RetroPie for the first time and you want to put a couple of ROMs on there and understand different ways that you can configure the video output, and when you've got it right, then you can carry on and put your changes over the top of it. Because when you run this tool, you only have to do it once and get it as you want it, and then you don't need to make any changes again. It doesn't, you could even delete the install files. It's just a one-time change, and I'll show you briefly the main file that it does change. But yeah, I just wanted to say it will overwrite your files, so do be careful in that respect. It doesn't touch your main retroarch.cfg at all. It doesn't touch your controller files at all. It doesn't touch a lot of files. The only one it really does change a lot is the system-based retroarch.cfg, and I'll show you that in a minute. Anyway, this is what you want to do to download. So remember to change that to the latest version, and I'll put a link to where you can find that out. But currently it's that one, so you just put v0.9, press enter, and it will download. So you do need an internet connection on the Pi to do this. It's about a 20 meg file, and it shouldn't take too long to download. But once you have downloaded it, the Pi doesn't need an internet connection to do any of the other steps or use it on an ongoing basis. It's just a one-time point here. Okay, that's downloaded, and you can see if I list that, it's downloaded the compressed file here, and it does kind of expect to be in the home directory. So the directory you want to be is home Pi, which is the default one when you log in. So do put it in that directory. Just make sure you're there before you download it. Okay, then we're going to unzip it, extract all the files from that zip, which is unzip -o. -o just overwrites files if you've unzipped it before, and that's the file we want to unzip, which shouldn't take a moment. So that just gets down the images it uses and the configuration files, etc. Now, just to be tidy, we're going to get rid of the original compressed file because we've extracted it all. So that's remove the file. So now if I list, we've not got the compressed file anymore, we've just got the directory that it's all gone into. Then we're going to change into that directory, and you'll see here we've got the main file, and we're just going to make a change to that file to make it executable so we can run the file. And that is chmod 755 videomanager.sh, and that's it. So that's all the installation, and you just need to run it. So now you're in this directory, you can run it with // to say the file is in this directory, and type videomanager.sh, press enter. There we go. Okay, so I've got a very basic menu at the top here. Config menu, shaders, overlays for 1080p, overlays for 720p, and just quit. So the one that I mainly use are overlays for 1080p, and I think those ones look pretty good. They make a big difference to the original settings. But what you must do is go to the config menu first, otherwise these options really don't make any difference at all. You must go into the config first, and if I press 1 enter, you can see here we've got install required files. And that is what you have to do for any of the other bits to work. So if you don't do this, it's not going to kick in. So I'll do that now for... Okay, so that just copied a load of files to different places on the RetroPie setup. Do make sure that you expand your card as you would to get ROMs on before you do this, because it does take a little bit of space. It's only about 20 to 30 megabytes, so not very much. And just to run through the options here, you have got, because like I said earlier, it does change your configuration files. You do want to be careful about making these changes, and I've made an attempt to try and sort of safeguard those. So I have got an option here, number one, to back up your existing settings. So before you go back and use these overlays, for example, you could back up your existing settings, and then it should restore, should you want to, exactly how you had it. I'm not guaranteeing that. Like I say, this is in beta, so don't do this on a system that you've spent hours upon hours of configuring. But yeah, you can back up your settings if you want, and then you can restore them. So there is a way to get back, and it does seem to work when I've tried it. But give it a go on a test SD card. Don't do it on your live system necessarily, even though that should be absolutely fine. Or separate to that, you can just reset all the files to default RetroPie settings. So as it was when you created the file, or when you burnt the image to your SD card. 4 is what we just did. So we installed those required files, and 5, 6, 7, 8 just change the emulator used for the Mega Drive from to Pica Drive or Genesis Plus GX, or from Nestopia to FCM. The reason they're there is just because some of the settings do I guess lean towards preferring a certain emulator. For example, some of the settings it sets some core options which only Genesis Plus X use, so ideally the settings think that you're going to use this emulator. You don't have to, but if you do, it benefits slightly in the way that the graphics are presented. And similarly for the Nestopia is preferred, but that's just personal preference, and you can change those options in the normal way. When you start a game, you can press X or your joypad button, and you can change the emulator there. So it's exactly the same thing, so you don't really need to do that if you don't want to. But like I say, it's inferred that the Genesis Plus GX and Nestopia are going to be the emulators you're running. But it's just some options there really to do that. And 9 quit. 9 doesn't actually quit, it just goes back a menu, so I probably need to rename that. But if we go back there, because I've installed my files, I can now say, right, I'll have some overlays. So option 3, and then the one that I tend to use is this overlays. Now overlay number 1, 2 and 3, overlays no smooth and no TV, are made by a user Pat L on the Pet Rock Block forums, and the next 3 or these 2, sorry, consoles 1080p 5 times and consoles 1080p are written by Patrick M, and I've put links to that in the info text file with this installation, so you can have a look through there. And like I say, Patrick M has provided lots of details and put a lot of effort into configuring his own settings there that I've incorporated. So do take a look at those options and see how you get on with those. The main difference between overlays and no smooth is just that the smooth option I showed right at the start of the video is turned off. I quite like the smooth on in conjunction with the overlays, but obviously you've got the option there to not have it on. And this one is just without the TV border around the outside, so you still get the scan lines, you just don't get a full screen sort of filled with the TV border. So again, some options there. Now the one, like I say, the one I like is option 1. So to choose it, press 1, press enter, and that's done. So that's all you have to do. You could quit out of this now, go back to Emulation Station, and you can do this whilst Emulation Station's running. It doesn't matter. You could even do it when a game's running, but I wouldn't. And when you do select an option, I have put the details of what it does in the background, so you can see that because I chose number 1, my configuration for SNES, Atari Lynx, Game Gear, blah 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 blah, has all been changed. And I put a little note, this made attempts to emulate a 4.3 CRT experience, and there's a forum link there where the option is discussed in more detail, so you can always check that out. Now, if I was to change, make another change to, let's say, Thoric's option here, I think Thoric is only changed. Well, I'll do it now actually. I'll choose number 6 now, straight away. Excuse me, number 6. There. Now overlays have been applied for SNES, Mega Drive, Master System, Neo Geo. Now obviously that is less than the options up here. So for example, Game Gear isn't changed here, which means that the Game Gear settings will still be set to this option up here because we haven't overwritten it, but all of these will be as per option 6. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just put it back to how I had it, option 1, and that's just overwritten those again. So now if I was to open up Emulation Station, play a game, I'll get that new graphic effect, and that's all you have to do. So it's a lot simpler than editing files to get a particular view that either you're copying from a forum or want to tweak your own. But once this is done, you can of course make your own changes. But I just want to show how easy it is. And like I say, there's a lot that I do need to probably tweak in this tool to improve certain areas, but fundamentally it works okay. It just overwrites, like I say, the retroarch.cfg file in a system. So now I've made that change, I can show you by choosing 7 quit and 5 quit out of the tool. Okay, now if I change directory to opt RetroPie configs, this is sort of where it does make its changes, and go to Mega Drive, you'll see here we've got the retroarch.cfg, but this process has overwritten that file because I can edit that, and you'll see nano retroarch.cfg, press enter. You can see up here it's got all the custom settings. Everything below here is as per the original, so you could, if you wanted, manually just delete all that and it would go back to how it was, or you could just use the tool and say reset to defaults, however you want to do that. But yeah, this is just saying what the settings are, so you could always tweak this if you wanted, but you can see what it's doing here. And that's why I said if you customize your retroarch.cfg files in the system directory, where you can see opt retropie configs and then the system name, if these are heavily customized by this would overwrite it, so do be aware of that before you use it. But really it should be just a case of running that tool up here that we saw, and you can, for a range of systems, you can quickly and easily get a much better feel without having to rely on shaders that can slow the system down a bit sometimes, and they're not quite as flexible, with overlays instead, which go under the that setting we saw earlier, the overlays for 1080p and 720p. It's hopefully a way that a lot of people can get up and running with nicer looking graphics. If you do have any questions on this, please do put them in the comments. If you found it useful, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll try to get more videos out soon that cover this in more detail, and certainly I'll do a video about this, exactly how it works, what the files are doing, where they go, and sort of detail and the background of it. But, thanks very much.